firstly, on the question of why bullies bully, there are quite a few different reasons, and that's why even the kinds of bully, there's a diversity. It's important to understand that it's not a homogeneous scenario. So not all bullies have the same motivation. So let me give a few examples. I mean, in psychology, we talk about a few kinds of bullying. So one is the narcissistic bully. These are the bullies that are very self-centered. They think they are the center of the world. They look down on others. They don't consider the feelings of other people. So they don't care whether they hurt people or their words or actions. Basically, so some of them, they do it because they're bored. They do it because it makes them feel good, makes them feel powerful. So that's one kind of bully. So narcissistic bullies, they bully out of this sense of extremely high self-confidence and high self-regard, and because they think the world of themselves and they don't care about other people, that's where the bullying comes from. Then you've got other bullies that they bully partly because of the peer culture or the peer pressure. Usually these kind of bullying happen in groups or gangs, so when they're part of the gang and some people start bullying, they don't want to be left out, so there's a lot of peer pressure to conform. You want to be part of this gang, then if we are all making some racist comment or picking out somebody because of their race or religion or gender, then you don't go along with the flow, then the threat is you might get bullied next. You might get kicked out of the group, so there's that group dynamic as well. Then you've got, some psychologists have suggested that, part of the bullying dynamic is this insecurity. So they feel, they're sort of projecting their own insecurity. They hate themselves, so they hate other people. They look down on themselves, so they look down on other people. So some psychologists have argued that maybe some bullies are like that, and the bullying is a manifestation of some deep-seated insecurity and weakness in themselves. Then you've got others that are called bully victims. They are victims of bullying themselves, and then they take it out on other victims. So they perpetuate the chain of bullying. So we call them bully victims, and again, that's also a very common category. So a lot of bullies, when you interview them, they themselves have experienced bullying. It could be from they're bullied by the older kids. They were bullied when they first started school. They're being bullied by their parents, their relatives at home, and so in a sense they have modeled the same behavior. And so now in turn they bully the other younger kids. I mean, that's sort of linked to another category of bullying which I call institutional bullying. Which is where the bullying is almost part, formally or informally, of a culture of a particular context. So for example, in many hostels this happens, the ragging for juniors coming in. So the juniors come in, they join university or school. Usually this happens in boarding schools or hostels, and the seniors 1 week sort of torture all the juniors.
Right.
And to the seniors, it's no big deal. It's just part of the culture, it's part of the tradition. But I mean, most people would consider that bullying, and I think there have been a few high-profile cases over the last 10 years that have come out. I mean, recently in Singapore, they took action because one of their universities there were actually, exercising this kind of ragging. So I would say, well, ragging is an example of bullying, but institutionalized because it's passed down sort of through the generations. All the seniors will say, well, it was done to us, so now it's time we do it to the juniors. And in a sense, in some cases, it's even accepted. It's even, encouraged. It's sort of validated by the authorities, as opposed to being stamped out. So I think these are sort of different examples of the different forms of bullying. And that's why, it's important that we don't classify all bullies in the same box.
Right.